May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Would you please be seated? It's a wonderful reading of Scripture. I think I say that every Sunday now. It's becoming a bit cliche. Everything we hear from the Gospel is wonderful. But I didn't want to start there. We'll get there soon. I wanted to start with our reading from 2 Thessalonians and just make a couple of short points about that reading. We have this wonderful teaching from Paul, who has a way of reminding those he's writing to about certain things. And many times it's usually, remember how we were like when we were with you, do that, basically. So Paul's doing something very similar in his talking in his narrative today. When it comes to one of my favourite words, I think, that I never use, because I think it's my favourite because it's ridiculous. Busybodies, right? Isn't that great? Have any of you used that or heard that? Yeah, I think you have. The idea of a busybody. Ridiculous, but great, because it sounds funny when you say it. So Paul here is addressing people who the English is translated into busybodies. We have to be careful, I think, when we take these teachings and readings from Thessalonians, or at least read it carefully. That's probably a better way of putting it. What this is not, is an instruction on how to make legislation for social welfare in Brisbane or Queensland in the 21st century, right? It's not a talk about how we should feel about people on welfare or anything like that, or how we should be in our working lives. In fact, the teaching about this kind of idea of working, of who we should give to, of who we should give ours to, really is on a continuum in Scripture. Paul today says that those who do not work don't deserve to eat. I guess on the surface that could seem quite good for some of us. You know, like, I work hard every day, I deserve to eat. Those who don't deserve to eat. But what about those who are retired? What about this kind of idea in our society about those who have managed to make good amounts of wealth? Well, they've got there because they're smart and they've worked hard. Well, a lot of the time, when people have made a lot of wealth, they then relax. Do they not deserve to eat? In fact, it's probably the wealthy that Paul's talking about here when he's talking about busybodies that don't actually do much, that go around gossiping. It's the product of what that is that Paul is warning about. So he says in Thessalonians, those who do not work do not deserve to eat. However, what does Jesus say in the Gospels? It wasn't long ago we heard this. Give to anyone who begs from you. Do not even withhold your coat. So how do we reconcile those two things? Jesus, our guide, our God, the one we worship, says give to anyone who asks from you. His entire ministry, he heals those who ask him to heal them. In fact, he heals some that don't even ask for it. He's constantly giving without any expectation of anything in return. And yet we still have Paul's words. Those who do not work do not deserve to eat. So like many things in Scripture, this is a teaching in Scripture which is on the continuum, on the spectrum. We have a teaching that says to give to anyone who asks, and we have a teaching that's quite a lot harsher. So Paul's on one end in this piece of Scripture of that continuum, And then Jesus is quite down the other end. I'd love to tidy this up for you. I'd like to make it extremely clear and give you a truth that only I can give that you can then follow and be right. But that would be completely fallacious of me, and that would be thirsting after righteousness for all of us. Personally, I tend to follow Jesus in those things that I try and do. However, different situations, different scenarios in society and in the life that we live quite often are not black and white. And we can take guidance from Scripture, and we must do so. We must do so prayerfully and carefully and faithfully, reflecting on the life of Christ as we do that. So, interesting teaching from Thessalonians this morning. All you busybodies out there. Then we get to this great, dramatic, apocryphal teaching from Jesus. Do you remember the gospel we just had read to us? Jesus talks about the temple as they're walking out of the temple together. They're marveling at this beautiful building. It says we marvel at this beautiful building here at Freshwater. And they're marveling at how ornate it is, the beautiful gifts that are given, offerings to God. And what does Jesus do? In his style, he turns around and says, "You see these stones? Not one will be left upon another. All will be thrown down." Now we know that those who were put in charge of the temple at that time were really puppets for Rome. He's already given teachings about his lament about how the temple was being run. We have the overturning of the tables in one gospel, and at least the rejection of the selling and lending in the other. We have the lesson of the fig tree, which is a symbolic lesson of the temple and its leadership and its shriveling up. And now Jesus gives this teaching again about the temple and how it will be thrown down. Now this gospel was written around 80-ish CE, so about 10 years after the temple was destroyed. The people who are reading this know the sting of what Jesus is saying. This is so real for them. It's so incredibly immediate for them. And I wonder in their context whether this would actually give them hope. Knowing that the Christ they follow, the one they proclaim as their God, the reason that they're starting to be broken away from their Jewish communities in the first place is telling them this would happen. And in fact, there's purpose for it. And then we hear the stories about wars, and famines, and all of those pestilences and things that are going to happen before those times. Now, I would suggest that's not actually so much a teaching about look for these things to happen, because then you'll know and you'll be able to predict when the end of the world is going to come. Right? Is anybody on that kind of page? Do you get that feeling from the gospel today? That maybe that's what Jesus is talking about? I did a quick Google search before I wrote this sermon, right? I don't usually write my sermons on Google, but I did a quick Google search of all of the instances in history where people have predicted the end of the world. I was going to be so clever, right? So I put it up on the screen, we were going to count them, we were going to giggle. The problem is there's too many. It goes right back to before Jesus. And then all the way forward, as we get past Jesus, we get to sort of Christendom, all of these people claiming to be Jesus in history. It's just too many. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of instances of people saying that they can use Scripture to predict the end times. It's simply not the case. In fact, Jesus warns us in the Scripture today. There will be many that come and say, "I am He," and warn that the end is coming near. Do not follow them. Do not believe them. For one thing, it's completely rejecting the grace which has been poured out upon each and every one of us. by the gift of the cross. Jesus warned us about using Scripture as something it isn't. A magical book to predict the end of the world. That's not what he's talking about. It's a reminder that these things will happen, have happened previously, and will continue to happen. That's why he uses imagery from Deuteronomy, the scriptures they had at the time, the Hebrew scriptures. This has happened before. It will continue to happen. But that does not mean the end is near. We can interpret the signs of the times, and we should. We should look around us, see what's going on, understand what it means for us here, this day, in this community, and work deeply, truthfully, honestly, and with integrity within that in order to spread the gospel, share the good news, and bring that grace and joy and peace that Jesus has promised to us, to all of those around us. And sometimes that'll be tough. In fact, it being difficult is part of what it means to be a disciple. Jesus reminds us of this. And in the community in which was initially reading this, the threat of potential death for following Jesus was very, very real. The threat of violence was real. And in fact, that still is in different places around the world today. We can thank the Lord that it's not so imminently real for us here. However, trials will come. Faithfulness in our life can be difficult and challenging and testing. That's part of what it means to be a disciple of Christ. It may not be that imminent violence for us, but within our families, maybe it is. Maybe we're finding it difficult to follow Christ's teaching of forgiveness and love and mercy when we've got such a difficulty within our own families. Or maybe others have hurt us, and we find it hard to follow that path. So as we leave today, I hope we realise that this teaching from Thessalonians isn't a teaching about social welfare. It's a reminder to us that we have to be careful and interpret these things in our own times and understand where we are in our society. And then follow Christ's teachings of being generous, giving, loving people, refusing to see others as the other, but drawing them into our communities. And I hope that this apocryphal teaching from Jesus reminds us of the importance of faithfulness, the promise of God's presence, and reminds us to ever be building on that faith, ever be growing within it, and coming together as a people of God in order to better express His word and His love to those within our community, within our world, whatever is happening around us at this time. In the name of God, the Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer,